Alright guys, welcome to part 2 of our Django React Redux apps. So in the first video we created a basic Django REST API with the Django REST framework. Now we want to start to implement React. Now we're going to do this manually. We're not going to use like create React app or anything like that because we're integrating React into Django. We're going to create a front-end app. Okay, remember Django has a concept of apps, and inside there is where we're going to have, for instance, the index.html file. We're going to have that as a template, and that's going to be basically the entry point for React. We'll have an index.js, which will be the entry point as far as the JavaScript, and then that will point to a main app component that will get loaded. All right, and of course we need to install Webpack. We need Babel. Babel takes care of transpiling our code, so anything that, newer features of JavaScript that React uses, and then we also install a React preset as well. So there's quite a bit here, and again, this tutorial, I'm going to put a link in the description. Some of this stuff you can check that out here, like the commands to create the files and stuff like that, the installations. So Webpack, we need to install Babel, the Babel loader, the presets. We need to create a Babel RC file to load the presets and plugins, and then a Webpack config file. So you can use this tutorial as kind of a reference. All right, so let's jump in. We're going to open up a terminal here. Now, I already have my server running in this tab, so I'm going to go into this tab here, and I'm in the root directory. I actually want to run pipenv shell so that I'm in my virtual environment. And then I'm going to cd into lead manager, because to create a new Django app, we need to have access to manage.py, which you can see is in this folder. So let's go ahead and do python manage.py start app, and then we're going to call this front end. Okay, so once we do that, we get a new front end folder and all the standard files that come with a new app. All right, so next thing we want to do is create a couple directories that React can live in. So first of all, let's do make directory -p, and we want to go into front end / and we're going to create a directory called source, and then we also want inside that a directory called components. So let's create that. All right, let's also create inside front end. We're going to have we want to create two folders or directories. So one is static and one is templates. And then inside there we want to have a directory called front end in both of those. So let's run that, and if we look over in front end, we now have source with components. We also have static front end and templates front end. Now the point of these, obviously the source is where all of our components, all of our Redux, everything that we do in terms of our React application goes in here, and templates is going to handle the index.html file that gets loaded, basically our single page, and then static will be the compiled JavaScript. So we'll have Webpack take our React application. We're going to have an index.js as an entry point. It's going to look at that, and it's going to compile it down to a file called main.js inside static. So if you've used Create React App before, when you run npm run build, it creates a static folder with all your static assets. That's what's going to live in this right here. All right, so next thing we want to do is start to install Webpack and all that good stuff. So we're going to go back to our terminal. Let's cd ... so that we're in the root. If you do an ls, you should see the pip file. And we're going to do an npm init. Of course, you have to have Node.js installed, so if you don't have that, just go to nodejs.org. npm init just basically creates a package.json file with all your dependencies, or I should say your JavaScript dependencies. -y just makes it so we don't have to answer questions or anything. It just includes all the defaults. All right, so, and I know most of you guys know this stuff. So let's do an npm install as a dev dependency, Webpack, as well as Webpack-CLI. Okay, so if we look over here in the root, we have a package.json file, and as that installs, it should get added. Webpack should get added as a dev dependency. There it is. Okay. And one other thing I did, guys, off camera is I initialized a Git repository with git init, and then I created a git ignore file with node modules, and then I went to gitignore.io and typed in Django, and it gave me the defaults for a gitignore for Django. So if you guys want to do that, that's fine. And then I just made a simple commit. But it's up to you when and how you want to make your commits. So I didn't want to include that in the tutorial. All right, so now that we have Webpack installed, next thing we want to do is install Babel, which will take care of transpiling our JavaScript, like newer features from ES 2015 and beyond. And we're also going to install the React preset as well. So let's clear this up and let's do an npm install as a dev dependency. We want at Babel/core, so basically the core package. We want the loader because when we're using Webpack, we need to use the Babel loader in order to have it transpile our code. So let's say Babel-loader. And next thing we want is the preset env. So we're going to do at Babel/preset-env. And what this does is it takes newer JavaScript, so ES 2015 plus, and it compiles it down. We used to have separate presets for each version, like preset-ES 2015, 2016, 17, but now it's all, we just use this one preset. All right, so let's see, in addition to that, we need the React preset. So we're going to say at Babel/preset-React. And we also want a plugin called Transform Class Properties, which handles static class properties for ES 2015 and 2016. So that's going to be Babel-plugin transform class properties. All right, and that should be it. So let's run that. Okay, so now that those are installed, we need to install, of course, React. So let's do npm install React. We also want React DOM, which takes care of displaying our application in the browser and the document object model, and then just prop types. Okay, so now that we've done that, if we take a look at our package.json, it should look like this. So make sure that yours matches this, so you have everything. All right, now in order to use these presets and this plugin, we need to create a file in the root here called .babelrc. Make sure you put the dot. Okay, and it's just a JSON object, so we're going to open up some curly braces and just say the presets that we want to use, and this is an array, a JSON array, is going to be at Babel/preset-env, and then we also want at Babel/preset-react. All right, and then as far as the plugins, so plugins, we just want to add transform class properties. I forgot my comma. All right, so presets and plugins. Let's save that file, and that should be all set. Next thing we're going to do is create our Webpack config file. So let's create a new file in the root called webpack.config.js. All right, so whenever you use Webpack, you have this file, and it can get very, very confusing. All we want to do is load the Babel loader. So we're going to say module.exports equals, and this is going to be a pretty simple Webpack config file relative to most of them. So we want to put in rules here, which is going to be an array, and we just want to put in one object here and say test. So basically we want to look at all the JavaScript files. So we want to put a regular expression in here, and then /dot, meaning a literal dot, JS, and then end with a money sign. So we're just saying for any JavaScript file, and then we want to exclude anything that's in the node modules folder. So we'll just use a literal here in a regular expression and say node modules. Okay, and then we want to say use, and then the loader is going to be Babel loader. Okay, so that's it. So that will take care of allowing us to use Babel to transpile our code. So we'll save that. Just double check that. Should be good. So yeah. So we'll close that up. Now inside our package.json, we want to have a couple scripts because we need to compile our React application that lives in the front end app. So in our package.json, let's replace this test script with dev. And what we want this to do is run Webpack. So we'll say Webpack. We're going to add a flag here of mode, and we're going to say this is development. Okay, and then we just want to take we want to basically look at the entry point for React, which is going to be the index.js file in the source folder, and then output it to the static folder. So let's do /lead manager /frontend /source / and then we'll have an index.js. Okay, and then the output, so -- output is going to be /lead manager /frontend / what is it? It's going to be static /frontend, and then we're going to call it main.js. All right, so this is going to be the actual compiled JavaScript that you include in your index.html template. Now, as far as build, we're going to have a build command as well. Let's put a comma right here, and I'm going to copy this entire thing and paste that in, and change this to build, and simply change this development to production. Okay, so it'll do a couple extra things for production. Now, when we want to compile our React application for development so we can view it in the browser, we'll do npm run dev. When you're ready to deploy, you do npm run build, just like you would if you were using create React app. So let's save this, and now let's create this index.js as well as our main app component for React. So let's go into front end, source, or src, create a file in here called index.js, and all I'm going to do in this file is just basically load the app, the main app component. So I'm going to say import app from /components/app and save. And then in components, we'll create a new file called app.js, and inside here we're going to import React from React. Let's also import React DOM, and then we're going to create a class called app. So this is our component. We want to extend React.component. Actually, you know what I'll do is just bring in component like this and get rid of that. Okay, and then of course we need a render method, and for now I'm just going to simply return an h1. Okay, and then down here we're going to take React DOM, which has a render method, and we're going to say we want to insert the main app into an ID, an element with the ID of app. So we'll say document.get element by ID, and we're looking for an ID of app. Okay, so let's save that. Now we need to create the actual template, the index.html file, where this div with the ID of app resides. So that's actually going to be in templates. So templates front end. We want to create a file called index.html. All right, and in this index.html, let's just generate a boilerplate here, and inside title I'll just say lead manager. And then in the body, all we need is an ID of app. That's where our React application is going to be loaded. Now, of course, we need our main.js to be loaded here as well. So this is actually going to be a template. This is a Django template. So inside script, we're going to do source and, oops, what did I do? Source, and we have access to these template tags. We just do these percentage signs here if you've never used Django templates, and we're going to say static. So we want to look in static and then in front end slash main.js. So where this is going to look is right here, static front end main.js. Now there is no main.js. That's going to get created when we run npm run dev or npm run build. And ignore this coloring here. It's just because we don't have a plugin for the Django templates. And then if there's any other static files that Django wants to load, we would just want to go right here and say load static, like that. All right, now last thing I want to do in this file is I want to use Bootstrap. So I'm actually going to go to bootswatch.com, and they're just customized Bootstrap CSS files. So I'm just going to grab the Cosmo here and take this link. If you want to use the standard Bootstrap CDN, that's fine. But I'm just going to put a link right here and paste that in. And then I just want the Bootstrap JavaScript files. So I'm going to go to getbootstrap.com, get started, and let's grab these 3 JavaScript files just for the drop down. So we'll go back and put those right here, and we should be all set as far as this. All right, so how does this actually get loaded? Well, we need to go to our front end app, which, by the way, I don't think we added to the settings, so let's do that really quick. So in lead manager settings.py, let's add front end. Okay, and just save that. But in the front end folder, we have a views.py, and this is where we want to basically point to that template. So we're going to have one method here called index, and when you create a view method, you want to pass in request, and then we want to return render, which you can see is brought in above, and render takes in that request, and then whatever template you want to load. In this case, it's going to be front end slash index.html. So that's going to automatically look in the templates folder, front end index.html. All right, so we'll save that. Now, just creating the view doesn't do anything. We need to link a URL to it. So let's close this up. Inside front end, which is right here, let me just close these up. So inside the front end folder, let's create a file called urls.py and create any URLs that are associated with this, which is just going to be 1. So we need to say from django.urls, we want to import path so that we can describe a path for our URL. We also want to bring in our views, so say from the current directory, import views. All right, and then we just want to set a URL patterns. Okay, we want to set this URL patterns list and then just put a path, and we're just going to say for the root directory, we want to load views.index. Okay, talking about the index method we just created here. So we'll save that. Now still it's not going to do anything because we need to basically include these URLs into the main URLs file. So in lead manager urls.py, we're going to add, we're actually going to add it above this. Let's bring that in here. And make sure that your front end loads before the leads. So just change this to frontend.urls. Okay, and we'll save that. So I believe everything is in place so that we can run npm run build, and it should create our main.js, which will be included in the view, which should load in the URL. So let's go back here, and where are we? So we're in the root, so that's where we want to run npm run dev, and hopefully this works. Okay, so it looks like it did. If we go over to static front end, you'll see that now there's a main.js file. So this is basically our compiled application, our compiled JavaScript, which is getting loaded in templates index.html right here. Okay, so now I'm just going to reset the server real quick. So Control C, and then I'll run Python manage.py run server just to make sure no issues happen here. And then let's go to the browser and let's go to HTTP localhost port 8000, which is the root. And there's our React application. All right, so I think that in this video, I'm just going to do a couple things, like a couple simple things. We'll create the header component and stuff, but we're going to get into Redux in the next video. And Redux is kind of complicated. If you've never worked with it, I'd suggest at least watching my Redux crash course, maybe some other people's Redux videos, but because I'm not going to explain every little thing. But anyway, let's jump back in here and let's go into, let's see, we're going to work in source, and inside this components folder, I'm going to create a folder called layout. Okay, for each component I create, we're going to have specific folders for. So in layout, let's create a component file called header.js. Okay, and this is going to be a class-based component because it will have, actually, I guess we could make this a functional component. No, because we're gonna need to use Redux. Never mind. We're just gonna use a class-based. So I have an extension installed, which I'd highly recommend, called ES7 React Redux GraphQL React Native Snippets, which I know is a mouthful, but this is really helpful. We can easily generate components and stuff like that. So I'm just going to do RCE tab, which gives me a React component. And inside here, I basically want this to be a nav bar. So I'm going to head to getbootstrap.com. And let's go to components and navbar. Instead of just typing it all out, we'll just grab it. So I want, let's see, I believe this right here. This is responsive. So I'm going to grab this and just copy it, and let's go back here and paste that in. Actually, you know what, we can use now, we can use it as the root, so let's just replace the div with that. Now, of course, in React we can't use class because we're using JSX here, so we have to use class names. So I'm just going to hover this first class and just Control D to select the rest of them. And we'll go ahead and change it to class name. Okay, and let's just move this over a bit. And we're going to get rid of this form. And we're going to, let's change this hidden brand here. We're going to change that to Lead Manager, which is the name of the app. And let's see. I guess we don't need any links right now, so I'm going to just get rid of these LIs. We'll go ahead and keep the UL, but that should be good now. Navbar expand LG, meaning that it has to be large for the collapse for the hamburger menu not to show. I'm going to change this to -SM because I only want it to show on small screens, but that should be good. Let's try that. Let's save it. And then let's go into our app.js file and let's import it. So we'll import header from ./layout/header. And then we'll just go ahead and let's get rid of that. And inside here, we'll put in header and save. Now, in order for this to show up, we have to actually run npm run dev. Okay, so we'll run that real quick. And there we go. So now we have our header. Now, one thing I want to mention is that if we make a change, like if we go to header and we say lead managers and I save it, if we go back to the browser and reload, it's not there because we need to actually run npm run dev again to recompile. Now if I reload, we get lead managers. All right, now to avoid having to do this, we could add a watch option. I probably should have just did this in the beginning, but if we go back to our package.json and in the dev right here, let's just tack on, after this mode development, we'll tack on -- watch and we'll save that. And now if we run npm run dev, it'll just watch the files constantly. So let's try it again. If we go back to header and we take away the S and save and go back and reload, you'll see that the S is gone. Now we don't have like hot reload where you don't have to hit the reload button like you do with Create React App, but and there are ways you can implement that with Webpack plugins and so on, but I'm not going to get into that. It's fine just to have to reload it. But I'm going to make this smaller just so we kind of have everything on the same screen. And yeah, so that's good. And the next thing I want to do is just add the dashboard. So basically we're going to have a dashboard that has an add lead component and then the leads component that lists all the leads. All right, and like I said, we're going to be using Redux, we're going to be using React Router. I just want to at least get the component files created, some of them. So over in the sidebar here, under components, let's create a folder, and we're going to call this leads. And inside leads, we're going to have 3 files, 3 components. So the first one is going to be dashboard.js, which is just going to hold the other 2. Okay, so we're going to have another one called form.js, which will be the form to add a lead. And let's create one called leads.js, which will be the list of leads. All right, so let's go to form.js, and I'm going to just generate a class-based component. And for now, just put an h1 here that says add lead form, and save that. Okay, we're going to add the functionality later on. And leads.js, I'm also going to do a class-based component, and we'll just say h1 leads list, save that. Okay, dashboard is going to be a functional component because all it's going to do is display the other 2. So I'm going to say RCF, and that'll generate a function. And then I'm just going to bring in the form from /form, and then let's also bring in leads. Okay, and then down here I'm going to use a fragment, so let's actually bring in fragment. Okay, and then in here let's just put the form first, and then let's put the leads. Okay, so that's our dashboard. Now let's go to app.js and let's bring in the dashboard. So dashboard is actually in leads/dashboard, and we're going to import dashboard. And let's also bring in fragment from React. And then down in the return, we're going to return a fragment, and let's move the header up here, and then let's put in our dashboard. Actually, you know what I'm going to do is create a container class, which is just a bootstrap class to move everything away from the side, and I'm just going to put that in there. All right, so let's save that and let's reload, and there we go. All right, now I'm actually going to, now that I'm working in React, I'm going to enable the I have the Prettier extension installed, which is a code formatter. So I'm going to go back to my settings, and I'm just going to turn format on save back on. So let me just check that. All right, good. So now if something's out of line, like let's say this header is over here and I save, it's going to fix it for me. Good. And let's see. Let's say, all right, so it's also going to add semicolons, which is what I wanted it to do. There we go. All right, guys, so I think that this is a good place to stop because I want to start to add functionality, but we're going to be using Redux. So in the next video, we're going to add our Redux store. We're going to create our root reducer. We're going to have a few reducers, actually. We'll have one for leads. We'll have one for errors, for messages. We're actually going to implement something called React Alert. That's basically like a pop-up. So for errors, whether it's from the server side or messages that we create on the client side, I want it to have a little pop-up. So we'll be implementing all that stuff. All right, so thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.